I would say just technology in general is very exciting because if you're interested in technology, there's a path for you, right? It might not be AI security, it might be cryptography, it might be software programming, but I would say there's something for everyone in technology. And as we know, technology is here to stay. We're going to keep seeing exciting things happening in the future.
Welcome to Cyber Chats, a podcast made by the National Cryptologic Foundation. I'm your host, Kennedy Taylor, and together we'll be demystifying the world of cybersecurity by talking with amazing cyber enthusiasts like you, as well as industry professionals. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. All right, welcome back to the Cyber Chats podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and we're going to get into AI, machine learning, 5G and 6G networks. Dr. Agarwal, could you please introduce yourself to us?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much, Kennedy, for having me on the show. So I work in the industry as a cybersecurity researcher. Just as a disclaimer today, I'm representing myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of any employer. Just have to get that out there. So my doctoral research focused on cybersecurity analytics. So I went to George Washington University in DC, where we have a cybersecurity analytics program, and that's basically combining AI, machine learning, and cybersecurity together. So a lot of my research has been how do we attack AI and machine learning, and then how do we defend against those attacks. So today, I hope to talk about both aspects, right? So we're going to attack machine learning, and then how do we actually use machine learning and AI for security? So it's really a double-edged sword.
Absolutely. And currently you work for Nokia, correct?
Yes, currently I work there, yeah.
What does a day in the life look like in your position? It's so special to be a security researcher in this space. I'd love to hear more about your day-to-day.
Yeah, so being a researcher, it's not like a set day. Every day is very different because that's the nature of research, is you're constantly working on different problems. So one day it might be really like team focused, like we're all working together on a problem, on a solution. So then it's a lot of meetings, a lot of teams meetings to try to get a solution together. Some days it's more independent research focused. So it's reading papers, trying to brainstorm ideas. So it just depends on the project and the problem that we're trying to solve. No day is the same.
Incredible. And speaking of your research, I assume that you're finding security vulnerabilities within machine learning algorithms. Is that correct?
Yeah, so as my doctoral research for my doctoral degree, I was looking at vulnerabilities in machine learning and AI, and basically how do we attack AI and machine learning. That's a field of study called adversarial machine learning. So if people are interested, I actually have my own YouTube channel and I speak in my free time. So I speak at conferences, I do a lot of these podcast interviews. So I'm really passionate about educating the public about, what we're going to talk about today, which is cybersecurity and also data science.
Amazing. Well, we'll certainly link your information down in the show notes so others can follow you on YouTube and see what you're doing exactly. But I have to ask you the million-dollar question. How is AI or machine learning being used by attackers?
Good question. So the challenge with AI and machine learning is even though it's providing us all of this innovation with data analytics, right? We can ask ChatGPT a question and it gives us a response back. But that also makes it very easy for anyone, practically anyone, who has access to the internet. They can use ChatGPT and they can use AI to attack things. So I actually showed this in one of my talks a couple of weeks ago. I could trick a generative AI algorithm, just in my personal research, by the way, to create a phishing email for me, even though if you ask Copilot, can you create a phishing email for me? If you want, you can pause the video and do that right now. Ask Copilot, can you create a phishing email for me? It will probably say, no, sorry, I can't assist with that request. But there are ways to jailbreak or to break generative AI models to actually attack it and help you create a phishing email. So even though all of these generative AI tools are trying to prevent these attacks from happening, there are still ways to attack it. So it's really hard. Insecurity, as we know, is that it's very easy to attack something, and what's harder is defending it, right? So AI is making it so easy for people to attack, but then the challenge that we have, not only in the industry, in the government, all across the world, is when we're using AI and machine learning, how do we defend against these attacks?
That's incredible. It's very cool that you're able to do that as well on your own time. I recently read an article from Morgan Stanley, and it said that cyber criminals are using AI to carry out sophisticated attacks like deepfakes, data poisoning, for example.
Yes.
What attacks have you seen from your own research? You mentioned
Yes. Yes. So I've actually specialized in this area just in my free time. So I've given talks all about it: data poisoning, deepfakes, adversarial machine learning, name it. I've probably talked about it. So I would say right now in the US, at least, we have the elections coming up, as everyone knows. So we're seeing an uptick in all of these deepfakes. We're seeing a lot of deepfakes out there, especially related to the political elections. So the challenge with deepfakes, just to explain it to everyone in case you're not aware, deepfakes are basically when we use AI to show something or to create something that didn't actually happen. So an example is President Biden. There was a news article, President Biden had called people in New Hampshire, I believe, and they said it was a legitimate phone call from President Biden saying some things when really it was a deep fake. President Biden never said those things, but people were able to believe it because of what they heard on the phone call. So that's one example of a deep fake. And so for deep fakes, we can extend it to images. Like Taylor Swift was recently impacted by this, right? People had created deepfake images of her in a very offensive and vulgar way. And she was very concerned and disturbed by this, as anyone would be. It can also be used for deepfake videos. A common meme out there is Trump and Elon Musk doing things in a supermarket or grocery store, if you've seen it. And basically, the idea is we're trying to use AI to create something that never really existed in the first place. So when people are using AI to create all these sophisticated attacks, it's because they're leveraging the power of data analytics and of data science to make it easier for them to use that same data to create attack data, right? So if I train my algorithm on images of, I'm trying to not be political, so I'll just say images of a person, just random people, okay, in the world. And let's just say I deploy my machine learning model in an airport, because we know now the TSA is using machine learning and AI to verify faces. So when I travel now, you can opt out of this, by the way, but a lot of times they use facial recognition to verify your identity using AI and machine learning. And so the challenge with this is, of course, people might try to bypass these security systems. They might try to attack it. And so how do we actually prevent against that? That's a challenge. But to give you an example, to explain data poisoning, because that's another one you mentioned. Data poisoning is when we try to manipulate the data itself, right? It sounds like poisoning. So with data poisoning, we're trying to break the model as you're developing it. So let's say I'm a contractor for the government and I'm creating an algorithm for the government, like TSA facial recognition. This is just a hypothetical example, just so people understand. And when I'm a contractor, maybe I have an insider threat happening where someone is able to manipulate the data itself as I'm developing it. And it says, like, this water bottle I have here is a person. And you send that to your facial recognition system. If you say this water bottle is a person, if you have someone, with a water bottle in their hand, they might see two people instead of one person. That's just an example. So the idea with data poisoning is we're trying to break the algorithm as it's being developed. And again, that's something that's really challenging because, as we know in cybersecurity, whenever we create a defense, people are trying to bypass it, right? So I think that's just the challenge we have. It extends to AI security as well.
With that, do you think AI and machine learning are helping or hurting our country's security?
With that, I would say it's a double-edged sword. To be honest, it's not one or another. So we talked a lot about AI being used for attacks, but also people might not realize this, but AI is being used every day. It's being used right now by everyone. Even before ChatGPT, we had AI and machine learning. So anytime you go on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Peacock, whatever applications you use, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anytime you go on any of these applications, they're using AI and machine learning. So to give you an example, when I buy something online through Amazon, because during COVID, all of us were buying things online, I was buying things on Amazon and it would say, people like you, they bought this and they also bought something else very similar. So for example, if I bought clothes, it would say people like you, they bought this shirt and they also bought something else similar, maybe another dress or a shirt or a purse or something else. So that's an example of machine learning. So anytime you go on Netflix or Hulu, Peacock, whatever streaming service you use or anything like that, they use the same thing when they recommend, like, you might like this, or for you might come across that on TikTok, right? For you, that's also using machine learning and AI because it's looking at all the data that you're giving the application. It's looking at, for example, everyone in Maryland is, we see this trend maybe where this area is in Maryland, maybe at BWI, for example, just airport area. We see this trend that everyone is looking up certain things. Maybe we see a lot of people are politicians, so they're really interested in politics and current events, things like that. And maybe then it will recommend those kinds of things to you, right? Like people like you who are also interested in politics might also like this, this, and this. So that's just giving you an idea of how AI and machine learning works. So we're actually using AI and machine learning for security. So even though people are very, very scared about AI, it's already been here for so many years. And in the government, in the industry, in academia, like all these places, they're all using AI and machine learning. For example, in healthcare, right, they might be using AI and machine learning to diagnose diseases. In the government, they might be using AI and machine learning as well, right? Because in the government, they have all this data that's coming to them. How do they make sense of all that data? So I think for our country and really any country in the world, AI is a double-edged sword, right? It's good, but we also need to be aware that it's not perfect and it can make mistakes as well. So I always say AI is a tool. AI is a really good tool, but it's not the only tool you should have in your toolbox. It's just one of many tools you should have.
That's a great point. And I always laugh at my grandparents when they freak out about AI and say, oh, I'm not moving on to that. But yet they're on Facebook and Netflix, as you mentioned. It really is everywhere. And maybe one day they'll see that. I'm not sure. But shifting gears a bit, because I understand that you specialize in 5G and 6G research, actually. So right now, our phones are mainly on 5G, correct? What are the
Correct.
changes that are likely to come with 6G?
So good question. Just as a disclaimer, I am only going to tell you what's available open source. So to give you background, right? 5G is what we're currently using. It's kind of the new thing that's coming out. And 6G is kind of the next G or the next generation. It's the next thing. And to actually develop 5G and 6G, it generally takes 10 years to develop it. So it's not something that's happening overnight. It's a really long process, right? And actually, to develop 5G and 6G, it wasn't just like some team in the US created it, right? It's actually a global effort. So everyone in the world, they're all agreeing, whether it's the US, India, China, and Europe, all of them have to agree, like, yes, we agree 5G is going to look like this, or yes, we agree 6G is going to look like this. Because with 5G and 6G, you know, your phone, if you're traveling to, I don't know, Europe and you're going somewhere else, you want your phone to still work when you travel, right? So to actually get your phone to work when you're traveling, that's all telecommunications. That's like 5G and 6G. So I can tell you that just if you Google 5G, if you Google 6G, you'll see the idea behind 6G is that we're trying to emulate or imagine what technology might look like in the future. So one big thing that everyone talks about with 6G is the idea of the metaverse. So the metaverse is like we're all working instead of this call, we're on Zoom right now. So instead of Zoom, we might be interacting with our avatars. So instead of just looking at your two-dimensional picture, maybe I have my virtual reality goggles on and it looks like a 3D conversation that we're having in real time. So that's one example. And to actually enable this kind of technology, we need to advance 5G into 6G, because the whole idea is with any technology, whenever you have things you're trying to do, you want to have technology that can support those innovations and those changes. To go back to AI, it wasn't that AI was new when ChatGPT came out in 2021. It was that the technology advanced so quickly that now they had the compute power available that you could actually, anyone can just ask ChatGPT a question or create AI generated art. It's because of the technology and of the compute power that's now available. So ultimately, it's just really an evolution of 5G. That's what 6G is.
Will quantum computing play a larger role in 6G?
Yes, so quantum computing is going to change, I would say, everything. It will impact technology overall. So with quantum computing, that's basically saying all of our algorithms that we're using for cryptography are no longer sufficient. That's something NIST is working on right now, right? They have candidates for the quantum resistant algorithms that they had recently decided on. And that basically means from an implementation standpoint is how do we implement our technologies with these new algorithms. And I think that's an ongoing discussion with everyone, like whether you're in telecommunications, whether you're in AI, everyone's just going to have to implement something, some new algorithm versus what we've been using currently, like RSA, for example.
Amazing. Well, considering a lot of the listeners to our podcast are a little bit younger, could you explain what quantum hacking is, I should say?
Yeah, explain hacking or quantum?
Well, quantum computing, quantum hacking, how it affects cybersecurity.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So quantum computing. So just to give you an idea, whenever you're creating password, whether you're logging into your game, you're logging into Discord, you're logging into any application, and when you type in your password, it's encrypted. So, right, when you type it in, no one can see it. When you type it in, it's like just the black dots. No one can see it. And actually, that's encryption, is no one should be able to see what your password is. So for example, if you're at an airport or if you're in a library and you log into your Instagram account or TikTok and you type in your password, the idea with cryptography is that no one should be able to see your password, whether you're in a library or you're at home, no one should be able to see that, right? That's yours. No one else should get it. And the idea with quantum hacking or quantum computing is that our current algorithms that we have right now are not going to be sufficient with quantum computing. So with quantum computing, the main idea for everyone is that right now we're able to encrypt our passwords when we type it. With quantum computing, the idea is that we have supercomputers, so you can break whatever is being used to encrypt your password. So just to give you an example, let's just say we're using an algorithm to encrypt our password, like I use this special formula to encrypt my password. But the problem is now with supercomputers, I can keep guessing all these combinations, like you might see in some of the movies, right? With the spy movies, they have a safe and they're trying to crack it, right? And they're just trying all these different combinations and then eventually they get it. So cryptography is like that, you could think of, is like I can try all these different combinations and then eventually I'll get into the safe or I'll get into your password, I'll get into your account because I can get your password. So with quantum computing, it's like I have a supercomputer that can basically do all these combinations for me really quickly so that the current formula I was using to encrypt my password is no longer sufficient. It's not good anymore because now a supercomputer can just quickly crack into the safe. So what we're trying to do with quantum computing is we're trying to say, okay, we don't want it to be so easy to crack into the safe. Let's create a more advanced lock. Let's create something that people can't easily just try all these possible combinations right away. So that's just kind of in a nutshell how it works.
Very cool. And I'd love to hear more about the research side of your work. So, how do you get the information you need in order to make recommendations and ultimately secure 5G and one day 6G networks?
With research, a lot of it is you have to really just use your brain and you have to kind of think of problems. It's like a lot of imagination. So, a lot of it is just imagination, thinking about what you might envision the future might look like. Just really just thinking any idea that you can think of, like maybe we'll have flying cars one day, or maybe we'll have a new technology one day, and how will that impact what we currently have? And so with research, a lot of it is just creativity and it's just creating these ideas in your head. A lot of it is imagination. So when you're creating all these ideas in your head, you try to research and you try to look up online, what are other people doing, right? What is something Microsoft or Google or anyone else is doing, right? Just to give you an example. And you try to see, okay, how is my idea for flying cars? How can I actually create that? How can I make it a reality? And then going back to security. So security is all about hacking into things, about breaking things, and about how to prevent these kinds of breaks. So going back to that idea of cracking into the safe. So security is just trying to break into something. So for example, with my flying car, I don't want someone to just hack into the flying car, right? So that's where security comes into play. So a lot of this research is creativity, imagination, and then just creating solutions for any problems that you see. It's kind of like you're an inventor or a scientist, and you're just using your imagination to come up with all these ideas.
I imagine that keeps you very interested in the work, correct?
Right. So it's very exciting. I would say just technology in general is very exciting because if you're interested in technology, there's a path for you, right? It might not be AI security, it might be cryptography, it might be software programming, but I would say there's something for everyone in technology. And as we know, technology is here to stay. We're going to keep seeing exciting things happening in the future.
Absolutely. Well, your work is remarkable. I'd love to take a step back and hear more about your background. As you know, there are so many avenues that you could take in cyber. So, why security research?
So, I would say my advice to everyone is don't just plan out your entire career or your life because things change. I think that's my first piece of advice. So, just for my background, when I went to college, I studied computer science or software engineering, but I didn't start out as a computer scientist or someone who wanted to do tech. I actually started out as a business major because in high school, I really liked entrepreneurship and I really liked business law classes. And I thought those classes were really cool. So most people, what they do is whenever they like a class in high school, they pick that as their college major, right? That's what I did. And then when I got to campus, I realized, oh, I really like technology. It seems really cool. Everyone's talking about AI. I want to do that. I want to solve those problems. I want to learn more about it. And so that's really how I switched my major from business to cybersecurity. Was I was just really interested in technology. And then I ended up working and studying cybersecurity. And then as far as security research, it was really just I was very interested in AI. I always thought that was really cool because we hear about AI all the time, right? Everyone's talking about AI, and now everyone's talking about quantum as well. And so I was like, I want to do those cool things. So actually, to do AI security, a lot of it is involved around research, because with AI security, a lot of the challenges we have require you to research all of these problems, because it's not just something that I could just do in a day, right? It's something I have to figure out, like, how does AI work? How does security work? How are other people doing it? So I would say that's kind of how I ended up in security research. Was I just followed whatever I was interested in, and then one thing led to another, which led to another, and now I'm here. Now I'm in security research.
Very cool. Now, I don't think I've ever met another cybersecurity professional with a doctorate in cyber. That certainly makes you very special in this field. Is that a requirement for security research in general? No?
No, it's not. So I would say security research, there are a lot of jobs out there where you don't need an advanced degree like a doctorate. I would say things might be changing now. So initially, you would just need a bachelor's degree. I would say for a lot of cyber jobs, a bachelor's degree is good enough. But for some security research jobs, I'm noticing the trend that people want master's degrees. But I have seen a lot of cybersecurity professionals with master's degrees. I think doctoral or doctorate students are kind of rare, but I think some people are doing it. So the reason I did it was because, again, I was interested in AI security. And traditionally, if you look at AI security or AI type jobs, they traditionally want a doctorate, because with AI, a lot of it involves a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of research. So that's why a lot of companies now prefer a doctorate just for AI security. But I would say security research in general, no, you don't need a doctorate.
What did your path look like while in school getting your doctorate?
So that's a good question. I actually did my doctorate while I was working full time. So I used to work in CISA in the government in the US. So I used to work at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, right? They have an office in Arlington, Virginia. And I was working full time, and then I did my doctorate part time while I was working. And how it worked was classes were on Saturday, and we would have homework due, and then we would work basically evenings after work and on Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a lot going on at one time for you. And
It
how
was a
many years
lot,
is the
yes.
doctorate? Is that 5 years?
So traditional doctorates could be 5 to 7 years. So the one I did was 2 years, but it was a lot because it was an accelerated program. So
Wow.
they were trying to cram 5 years worth of instruction into like 1 year, and then you have 1 year to do your final research project. So a requirement for that doctoral program was you need a master's degree before you do it. So I did a master's degree, and then I started working at CISA, and then I started my doctorate.
Was your final research project on 5G and 6G networks?
My final research project was on AI security. So I was very interested in the idea of attacking AI and machine learning. So the research I did was, we have this new technology out there in machine learning called federated learning. If you're interested in learning about that, I do give a talk about federated learning and about this topic. So if you're interested, check out my YouTube videos. But basically, in a nutshell, it's like we have machine learning and we're trying to make it private. We're trying to prevent anyone from seeing this data that we have, right? So if I'm logging into Instagram, I don't want everyone to see everything on my Instagram if I have a private account, for example, right? So that's the idea of data privacy, is I want my data to be private. And the challenge with machine learning is, because it's all of this data that I have, people used to be able to really easily attack machine learning. Because imagine if you have all of your data in a database or in a bank. Think of it like a bank, right? You have all of your data in a bank. One person could rob your bank, steal a lot of money, steal a lot of data, and get away with it. With federated learning, we don't have one bank. We have millions and hundreds and like 100,000 banks, right? So every device, every cell phone has its own bank or own database. So to actually get the data of all these millions of people, you can't do it unless you have superpowers and you can like teleport and access like millions and millions and millions of banks, which no one could do. So that's kind of at a high level, that's what machine learning with federated learning is trying to do, is we're trying to say that, okay, I'm not going to make it so easy for you. I'm not keeping all of my secrets in one location. I'm trying to spread it out. I'm trying to say, if I have my phone right here and I'm using my phone, all of my data is staying on my phone. So if you want my data, you have to hack into my phone. You can't just hack into some bank, right? So that's kind of the idea of federated learning. So going back to my research, I basically showed how you could attack federated learning and how do you defend against those attacks. So really, my research has always been around like AI security, using AI for security, or attacking AI.
I had a friend who worked in data mining, and when she would tell me more about her job, I just got anxious. That's a cyber professional. I was like, I wish I didn't hear this. But tell me a little bit about what you love the most about your career in security research, and what do you find the most challenging?
I think what I love and what I find the most challenging is the same, and that's I always get the chance to learn new things, which is really exciting because then I don't have to do the same thing every day. Every day is new, but also it is challenging keeping up with all these advancements, right? Like just a couple of years ago, we didn't know what quantum would look like, really, and now everyone's talking about quantum. And so that's the challenge with security research, is you get to learn all these things, but it also means you have to keep up with a lot that's going on. It's not something you could just learn in school and then forget about it and then do the same thing your whole career. It's something you have to keep learning about.
You know what? I will ditto that as well. Just for my own cybersecurity career, I think that in cyber, you constantly have to learn, and it really does keep you interested and pushing always.
Yes.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much. We're going to move forward into our Fast Five questions. Are you ready?
Okay, ready.
Okay, perfect. And just as a reminder, you have 10 seconds to respond to each of the Fast Five questions.
Okay.
Alrighty, first, what open source tool or free application have you found valuable?
Python.
What would you make sure is installed or uninstalled on a friend or family member's device?
Make sure you install an antivirus like Windows Defender.
Ooh, I second that. One thing you wish you knew before starting in your career field?
That everyone has their own path. Don't try to compare yourself to someone else.
I like that one. Most valuable skill you've applied in your career?
Communication.
What's the most fun part of your work in cyber?
Always learning new things.
Ooh, I loved your answers. Thank you again, Dr. Anmol Agarwal. You are absolutely remarkable. It's great to hear about your background, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kennedy. It was great being on this show.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope this conversation sparked your curiosity and got you excited about the world of cybersecurity. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with fellow cyber enthusiasts. Have a question or a topic you'd love us to explore? Connect with us on CyberChat's podcast page and join the conversation. Until next time, stay curious and keep the cyber chats going.